I migrated to the United States when I was a junior in high school. When I arrived in the US, I enrolled in Poughkeepsie High School. When I enrolled in Poughkeepsie High School, school became my refuge in my new country. I had many great teachers. One in particular, Ms. Felter, who shaped my teaching philosophy today, helped shape who I am as a person. The single determining factor in a child's success is to have one caring adult in their life. This is according to Bruce Perry, a world-renowned psychiatrist on childhood trauma. I was fortunate to have that caring adult in Poughkeepsie High School. Ms. Felter was not only a classroom teacher, she basically became my mom. She fed and clothed us in a dignified manner. One thing I will forever remember from Ms. Felter was a day that she called me in her closet and said, I just bought a few shirts for my son, but they didn't fit. Could you look to see whether you would like any of them? This was because a few days prior to that, a student asked why my pants were dirty. Ms. Felter, without telling me to clean up my pants, decided to buy me new clothes. That is the tenement of a great teacher. It was Ms. Felter who took 45 minutes out of her Saturday to drive to Poughkeepsie to study with me the weekend before taking the Regents exam. And I took the Regents exam and passed. 3 hours after I came out of taking the Regents, her and I were huddled in her classroom calling homeless shelters because I needed a place to sleep that night. Ms. Felter validated my humanity without highlighting my challenges. Teaching is all about cultivating and nurturing relationships. It doesn't matter how great our lessons are, or how skilled we are at delivering those lessons, or how knowledgeable we are of our subject area, if the students we are trying to teach do not know how much we care about them. I became a teacher by accident because 10 years ago, I was working in a grocery store at Stop and Shop. Those of you who live in Poughkeepsie would know where that is located. And my boss told me, you know, child, I've been doing this for 30 years. Imagine 30 years from now stocking these shelves. How would that feel? I said, I don't know, but that's not going to be my life. As soon as I got out of work that day, I went to Dutchess Community College to enroll in college. I didn't know what I wanted to do, but I knew one thing: whatever career I end up doing, I will need math and English, and those are the two classes I took. I was very insecure being in college because after 6 years of not going, there were a lot of skills I was lacking. But again, I was able to meet another incredible educator. Sometimes we don't need to go the extreme mile that Ms. Felter did for me. All we need is to show compassion and care and kindness in our classrooms. It was Ms. Wiley who gave me this note my first semester at Dutchess Community College. The note reads, after 40 years of being an educator, you are the reason I still do this. After I read that note, that summer I took 5 classes. I did not make the dean's list. I surpassed the dean's list, and I got on the president's list. And within 3 years, I was able to get my bachelor's, and a year after that, my master's. During my first semester of college, a tragedy struck my family back home. My sister in Gambia was diagnosed with hepatitis B. We applied for her to come to the US, because the medical treatment in the medical facilities in the Gambia were not equipped to treat hepatitis B. Unfortunately, she was denied the visa. 4 months after the denial of the visa, she passed away at the age of 19. 12 hours after she passed away, the grandmother who raised all of us also passed away from heart attack. It rocked my world. Upon my return from their funeral, I became very clear what I wanted to do with my life. I then changed my major from business to political science and history, with a dedication to become an immigration lawyer to help immigrant families not to go through what hopefully not to go through what my family had been through. When I was ready to go to law school, my pre-law advisor, Lisa Holmes at the University of Vermont, asked, "Why do you want to go to law school?" Obviously, I was very clear on why I wanted to go to law school. I told her the story of my family, and she said, "Well, if that's really your objective, law school is not the place for you." I said, "What do you mean?" She said, "Well, think about it this way. By the time you are able to defend those kids in the courtroom, one of two things would be happening. They'll be either going to jail or they'll be getting deported. Why don't you do something that will ensure that they will never even have to see the courtroom?" After thinking about what that will look like, education became the obvious choice. And I could not be more grateful for that advice. And today, instead of defending them in the courtroom, I prepared them to challenge what is coming. My story is the story of millions of immigrants who left their country with hopes and dreams and aspirations. They are not a burden to this country. They are a blessing. If I can do it, they can do it. If I can do it, there is nobody who cannot do it. But it requires, as educators, to understand that our job doesn't end in the classroom. It goes beyond the classroom. And so many of you do this every single day. What happens when a teacher chooses to focus on the promise rather than the challenges? I know what happens when a teacher chooses to focus on the promise. I am what happens when a teacher chooses to focus on the promise and forget the challenges. Our students face a lot of challenges in this day and age, especially our recently arrived immigrants. 1 in 3 students in the US report feeling depressed or sad while in school. And this is according to the CDC. Therefore, it is important that social and emotional learning becomes a crucial part of our education system. Because as our students' personal lives develop, their academic life will fall in place. Martin Luther King said, "Not everybody can be famous, but everybody can be great, because greatness is determined by service." Typically in education, there is a lot of noise. The day of the announcement, when President Mulgrew called me and he said, "Well, thank you for cutting through the noise and just doing your job." And I think that's what we all need to do. While there's a lot of noise, let's just cut through the noise and just do the job. By doing the job requires one reminder, which I remind myself every day, and it's a quote from Maya Angelou. And she said, "Courage is built in the littlest of things. Just do right." She said, what's right might not be convenient. What's right might not be expedient, but it will satisfy your soul. It gives you the kind of protection that bodyguards cannot provide. It helps you to stand out. People will know your name. They will add their prayer. And when we do right by our kids, not only are we saving that particular child, but we are saving the next generation. What Miss Felter has done for me, maybe she might never understood the magnitude of it. When I look at my own two kids today, who are 5 and 1, living in a neighborhood in which we are the only black family in that neighborhood, running around in the front yard and the backyard, doing whatever they wanted to do because nobody could restrict them because that is their parents' property. And that's a parent who 15 years ago was sleeping in homeless shelters. But because of a dedication of a teacher, his kids and the generations after that would take a lot of things for granted because of what a teacher has done for him. Let's think about that when we embark on this journey tomorrow in our classrooms, knowing that it is not about that child alone, but it is about the generations that are gonna come after that child. With that, thank you so much for having me today. I sincerely appreciate it. Okay. All right. I'm gonna ask if you guys can come.